I've been on an interesting journey with trick taking, going from not really liking the mechanic at all to really recently being intrigued by it a lot. And so the question is, where will Tidal Blades stack up? Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is Tidal Blades Banner Festival, a trick-taking game from Druid City Games played across 3 rounds, in which you try to gather as many points as possible from a variety of sources, from constantly lapping the track, going round and around this gate, slowly turning over more and more cards to get more and more points from your deck over here, from gathering fruit and trading it in, and then from getting placements on these zones over here so that at the end of each age you can score for whoever has the most banners, after all this is a banner festival, on the board over here. That's basically what's going on. 3 rounds of trick taking, a variable number of cards depending on the player count. Generally, you're going to be looking at having 8 cards per player, which means 8 tricks are going to be played per round, for a total of 24 tricks across the course of the game. That varies slightly depending on the player count, but that's the basic idea. You're going to go ahead and give out 8 cards to the players, and again, depending on player count, I'm just going with the majority over there. Each player is going to go ahead and look at their hand of cards, taking a look at what they have over here, be mindful of the between 1 to 9 values they have, 0 in a larger player count, but generally 1 to 9 are going to be the values in a variety of colors, and trying to think and plan around how and when you're going to use those to win, lose, or be right smack dab in the middle of a trick. You want all 3 of those depending on the situation. In every single region on the board over here where you're going to look where the gate is, and you're going to take a look at the hierarchy in that specific region. So for example, yellow, blue, purple, orange is going to be the hierarchy over here. Whoever plays the highest number in the highest hierarchy is going to win that trick. So for example, this 9 yellow over here can guarantee me the win. If I play this card, I am guaranteed the win in that spot. Now, whether I want to guarantee the win at the moment, that is an entirely different question. Holding on to the tricks for the right moment in time, that can be hugely impactful in this game. Especially, I can possibly even get away with playing this 4 over here because of the fact that normally a 4 would not get you anything. But knowing full well that I have the 9 means other players don't have the 9, which means they might be sitting there thinking, well, if I can't win, I may as well not try, so maybe I can get away with this 4 over here. That's going to be part of the strategy of the game. When you win a trick, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and advance your craft to the gate, and you're constantly trying to loop around this 8 over here. Every time you loop around, you're going to reveal another card from the stack, which goes from values low as 1 all the way up to 28, not one at a time. They keep escalating, and so you can have 7 cards, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards that will all escalate up to 28 total points that you can possibly get if you continuously lap around 7 times across the course of 3 rounds. That's what happens if you get highest in a trick. If you get lowest in the trick, you're going to resolve the ability on the bottom of the card. Now, those abilities vary. Losing with a 9 can be very powerful because you'll place this card in your scoring pile and get 5 points for that card. Now, in a game that points for us have been anywhere between, I want to say 30 and 60 points for our games, maybe not even 60, 30 and 55 for our games. 5 points from a few of these cards can really add up very quickly. So you have a bunch of abilities on these cards. Abilities will do different things: gaining fruit, advancing your watercraft, placing a banner in the quadrant's nearest available space. You have a bunch of abilities over here that will all give you different things for when you are the lowest. So in this case, the lowest orange, a 1 in orange, or 0 in a 5-player game, would be the lowest number you have over there. So you want to be mindful of those colors, those numbers over there. We're trying to get the lowest number, the lowest value. Alternatively, in the middle, if you are one of the players who's in the middle, then you're going to go ahead and look at the card you played. Perhaps I played this 4 over here, and now this 4 is in the middle. So with the gate being over here, you're going to look along this pathway to see where you're going to place your banner. Right now, this is an odd value, and 4 is even, so I'm going to skip this spot. Over here, we have a blue card, so I'm going to go ahead and take a banner, putting it down on the blue spot, as will other players who also played their card this round. In future rounds, this will be considered block and occupied, and you will skip it the next time someone plays a blue 4. In this case, it would go straight to the tower over here. But in the current round, any players will place their banners over there, getting the fruit, which means you're doing 2 things. You're both getting the benefit of whatever the spot is, which is generally 1 or 2 fruits, or placing down a second banner. And then also, once you get to the tower is going to lock you in position over there, and the towers stay round to round. The other area is all clear, towers stay round to round, and you're trying to vie for points over here because you're going to get 6, 3, and 1 points for first, second, and third points, for first, second, and third place on both sides of the arenas over here, trying to get as many banners as possible. And remember, those towers over here, while slightly harder to get to, those last round to round, which will help you in future rounds and not just the current round. And that's basically it. You're going to be playing tricks, playing 8 tricks, constantly moving this around the board. One thing I didn't talk about is whoever plays the lowest trick gets to move this 1 to 4 spaces, effectively deciding where the next arena of combat will be as you try to plan both around your current hand at the moment, the cards you're going to have for the next few rounds, how you try to read your opponents, which cards are out of play. There's always going to be some cards that are out of play, which means there's a degree of unknown. Maybe no one has that yellow 9 after all, although you're clearly the one with it. And so you're constantly playing the game, playing the odds, playing the players, playing the board state, trying to take advantage of the game as much as possible to get as many points as possible. One last thing to cover, which is going to be the fruit, because I mentioned there's 3 ways to score points, 3 primary ways. The first is going to be getting these rounded up as fast as possible to 10, to 15, to 21, to 28 on these tracks over here. Alternatively, you're going to be trying to get points from the 6, 3, and 1 from each side of the board across 3 rounds of play. And then lastly, the fruits. Well, the 9s as well. The 9s in your scoring pile. But the fruits over here, whenever this scoring pile of fruits empties, which again will vary based on player count, whenever this empties, you're going to look to see who has the most fruit. That player will get points equal to the amount of fruit they have, whereas other players will get points equal to half the value of the fruit they have. So trying to get a bunch of fruit, 5, 6, 7 fruit, can score you a chunk of points in a game, like I said already, that goes to 30 to 55 points. Scoring for those fruit piles a few times can quickly add up. And that is Tidal Blades Banner Festival, a trick-taking game across 3 rounds, a variety of ways to score points, and a variety of challenges to try to keep in mind as you try to play the players, play the game, and play the tricks across the rounds of play. Which brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. Rulebook is incredibly easy to go through. This was an absolute breeze, incredibly clear, incredibly crisp, like everything from the abilities they have, from the round overview, from everything here. Very, very clear rulebook, no questions whatsoever on that. Game plays in roughly 35 minutes or so. What does the box say? Box says 30 minutes. That's on par. I would say in general, this has been roughly a 30-minute game, 30-minute long experience. It plays quickly. It gives you those 3 rounds of play. You're playing the tricks. You're going through the motions. It plays fairly quickly and very easy on table space and all forms of accessibility and all that. As far as player count, this is a 2 to 5 player game. I've played this one at 4 and 5. I've specifically held off on 2 and 3 players because there's a dummy player kind of aspect of playing cards from another deck, which while I have not tried it, I generally don't like that mechanic. I like having the players being fully involved and not playing an extra card. Might work totally fine here. I'm just going with my personal inclination not to do that. So I played this game at 4 and 5 players. I will say I preferred it a drop more at 4, but both worked fairly fine. It's simultaneous play for the most part. In 4 or 5 players, you're basically competing more over extra banner positions. The first place is always going to be the same, and the last place is always going to be the same, and you're going to have one of first and last. You're vying for more banner positioning across the course of the board. So 4 and 5 both worked well there. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see as not liking, starting off the fact with winning isn't everything. In terms of what I liked, winning is not everything in this game. In general, I like the mechanic in trick-taking games in which winning is something you're striving for, but it's not everything. There's reasons to do a variety of things. There's times you're going to want specific banners on the board. There's times you're going to want to get that ability to unlock 2 gates into the tower. There's times you're going to want to move your water boat 2 along the track and get an extra fruit so you can clear the board and get 7 points in the fruits. There's always times you'll want to do anything from the middle to the ability to winning and circling the track, getting what you need. Winning is not everything in this game. And second of all, this game very heavily has multiple paths to victory. I've seen players win with their scoring card over here still on the 1. I've seen players win the game, exceeding everyone else because they managed to get enough banner positioning and they managed to focus on what they need. I've also seen players get this all the way to 28 and get a solid chunk of tons of points, and you augment that with a few other points here and there, and you can win the game. There's definitely multiple viable paths to victory. I have not seen anyone win from fruit alone, but fruit definitely pads out the points you're going to be getting here, and it's not as simple or easy to simply say, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. Working on both or either or focusing, those are all viable paths to victory. As far as what I don't like, there's not a lot in the way of large moves in this game. There's not a lot of incredibly impactful moves that really completely change up the way you approach things. There's a lot of small movements here, a lot of small movements around the circle, a lot of small positioning of the banners. There's very few moves that make you feel eminently clever for how well you manage to do something in the game. There's occasional times, sometimes as you move through this deck, you're going to have cards that reward you for being on the 4 or the 5. Sometimes there are times where you'll have, like, a chain of 3 or 4 cards where, like, if I lose this trick, then I'll win that trick, and I'll lose the next trick. It happens infrequently, but most of the time I find that the game is all but small movements, small victories. And then secondly, is winning doesn't feel powerful enough in the game. I like the fact that this is a trick-taking game which winning is not everything, which trying to lose or place middle, it's about what you're trying to do as opposed to winning entirely. But I feel like winning should matter matter a drop more. There are times you straight up do not want to win. When you have the gate over here and you have your boats over here, your watercrafts over there, you're not going to want to win because you're only moving one. You kind of want the gate to move a little further ahead before you try to circle around and score over there. And so there are times you absolutely do not want to win. Now, to be fair and to give credit, that allows for interesting strategic choices. Trying to position the gate in a way where other players won't want to win that much, but you still do, means you could try to get that win with a very low cost to entry. So there are benefits to that, but I feel like winning in this game is not as powerful as I would like it to be. While I would like there to be multiple aspects going on, I would want the winning to matter a bit more. It doesn't always feel as impactful to be like, and I managed to secure that victory because I moved this and positioned that. Okay, so you secure the victory. Sometimes the other players aren't even trying, which can be a bit anticlimactic, seeing that they just didn't care who won that particular round. As far as I can see others not liking, first of all, that ambient movement forward. The game just kind of slowly moves forward progressively. Not a lot is changing, not a lot's crazy. The gate's slowly moving around the board, giving you a little bit more of a reason to continuously chasing the gate around, continue to cross the board. It's a slow-moving, slow progression game. And secondly, there's not a lot of time for build-up. The game takes around half an hour. Trying to vie for those towers is important, but so is getting fruit. And the problem is the towers are only in play for 3 rounds because it's a maximum 3-round game, and so there's not a ton of time for the build-up that this game almost teases towards. It works well, it does its job, but in all areas it kind of feels a bit like small movements across the course of the game. Which brings me to final thoughts on Tidal Blades Banner Festival. I like Tidal Blades Banner Festival. I think it's a solid trick-taking game, and it does a lot of things very well. It has powers and abilities, it has beautiful art and production, I didn't even talk about that. Beautiful art and production, left, right, and center, up to and including the squishy fruit. It does everything well, and the whole chasing of the banners across the board, of trying to trace your pathway to the towers over there, trying to get the extra fruit, trying to get your looping around the track over here so you can slowly move through this deck, all of that gives you pathways to victory, all of that gives you something to focus on, and there is a decent amount of strategy here. For me, it just comes down to the fact that very rarely did I feel satisfying moments in this game. I would say the times where I did feel satisfying moments are those times I touched upon already, where I'm thinking through 3 turns in advance, and like I can basically all but guarantee the win here, which means I'll go ahead and be able to move that, and then unless the person moves it there, I'll be able to get that as well, and then I'll have a loss. When you're thinking 3 turns ahead and you manage to have that perfect combination of cards, those were satisfying times. But the practical reality is you can't do that often. The practical reality is it's very rare that you can guarantee the win, the loss, and the win, so you're kind of trying to play the best game, trying to play against other players, which is what trick-taking is, but it meant that most moves are small and isolated and not overly powerful, and the game works well with most of the time it not giving me that rush of look at that cool thing I did. Occasionally yes, but most of the time not so much. Overall, this is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It's a trick-taking game I do enjoy, it's a trick-taking game I do appreciate, but one that I wish had more fun, I guess, more powerful moments, whether it's the winning mattering more, whether it's the abilities being cooler. I felt that a lot of times going for a banner on the docks was the best thing to go for, and that felt like being in the middle is the best thing sometimes, which felt a little off to me. So overall, 3.5 out of 5, Tidal Blades Banner Festival from Jude City Games. As far as other game recommendations, I have 2. First of all, if you want something equally visually striking, but a totally different 2-player trick-taking game, Claim is fantastic from Daily Magic Games. And then secondly, if you want a game which is going to give you a lot of game around it, Brian Burrow is another game that will give trick-taking as a main mechanism, another game which winning and losing are both something you're going to want depending on the situation. That's going to be Brian Burrow from Osprey Games. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.